The Chargers are looking for redemption in Week 5 after a disappointing loss to the Giants in Week 4 in MetLife Stadium. So what the Chargers need to do against the Commanders, what they need to clean up, what their keys of victory going to be, and what they need to look out for against the Commanders in Week 5 to get a victory. Let's break it all down in that game preview for Week 5. Let's get into it. All right, so Week 4 is gone. It's over. We got to redeem ourselves, as the Chargers fan base. We got to pick ourselves up, pick our faces up the ground, and get back at it. And so do the Chargers as the team gets ready for the Commanders to come into SoFi Stadium on Sunday. So we're going to talk about the keys to victory. We're going to talk about some clean house moments, things the Chargers need to improve on, not just for this week, but going forward. Talk about that. Talk about what to watch out for with the Commanders and what the ultimate keys to victory going to be to get a W in the win column for Week 5. So I'm gonna start by saying this. Now I took an opposite approach last week. I was very silent about my feelings about the game against the Giants. I did feel like I said this in my video yesterday. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But I did say that I felt like it was a trap game, but I didn't want to say it because I felt like saying it will ultimately make it come true. But guess what? It came true anyway, and I didn't say anything. So I'm gonna say it this week. I feel nervous about this game against the Commanders. I really do. I really feel like the weaknesses that I underscored and a lot of my counterparts and my compadres in the media space talked about for the Chargers were weaknesses and glaring holes that the regime didn't necessarily fix in a glowing manner would ultimately hold the team back are coming to a head right now. It really is. It's a very glaring issue. I think that the problem holistically is, and we can say it, that the weakest unit of the team that that we all kind of underscored is the most injured at the moment. We lost Rashawn Slater for starters. Now Joe Alder's down. Mekhi Becton is banged up. We're not sure if he's going to play. This concussion business is lingering for him. On top of the fact that he hadn't practiced much all preseason. So we don't know what kind of shape he's ultimately going to be in when he does get back on the field. So again, you can't afford to lose the guys that you had that were solid, and we lost all three of them. Now we're left with the people that we all had question marks about. We had question marks about Trey Pipkin. We had question marks about Zion Johnson. We definitely had question marks about Bradley Bozeman. And then you get to the reserves and Jamar Sallier, who's getting beat, like a rented mule, every which way, and every time he plays on the O-line. And then you got Austin Deculus, who, I thought might be serviceable, but he has a problem with speed rushers for sure, because he just got walked around constantly by Brian Burns and Abdul Carter in the Giants game. So, yeah. And I think that my biggest problem, my most nervous moments about this particular, I guess you can say, flavor of the team at the moment is Justin Herbert. I fear for Justin Herbert's ability to stay healthy. I'm just going to say it. I fear for it because I don't like what the O-line is doing. They were giving up a lot of pressures before Week 4, and it just ramped up and got ratcheted up to a high level in week 4 against the Giants, which rightfully so, because again, they have one of the best D lines in the league. I might argue they have the best talent-wise. I mean, you talk about Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. I mean, they lined up that combination in like a NASCAR package constantly on third down, and they just wreaked havoc and got in Herbert's face early and often. And the O-line didn't really put up a whole lot of fight. I mean, we saw clean. I mean, it wasn't bad as the Houston Texas game where Jeffrey Simmons was in CJ Stroud's face so he snapped the ball. But it's pretty bad. I mean, a lot of saloon door type things. If you watch a Western movie, you see a saloon door just swing open back and forth. That's how it was. It was a lot of Olay and a lot of Matador blocking going on against the Giants on Sunday of last week. So will that continue? because you got to face not only you had to face that particular O line, you got to face another D line that's formidable, and the Commanders coming in this week. So what is that going to mean for this interior O line, and what version of the O line are we even going to get? Because we don't know what Mekhi Becton's going to do. What they're going to do at left tackle with Joe Alt not playing. Trey Pipkins, he's going to come back and play right tackle. They're going to move him around. We don't know. We don't know. I'm not sure exactly what they feel like the best version of that O-line is going to be in that patchwork O-line, but they got to figure it out, obviously. So a lot of people are clamoring. I put a poll on my YouTube channel yesterday about who we think should start at left tackle, and I think Jamari Saleh is winning that vote right now. But I'm going to be honest with you. Now, people harking back to Jamari Saleh playing left tackle when Rashawn Slater got hurt 2 seasons ago, right? But my issue with Jamari Saleh as a whole is I feel like he's regressed holistically. Like, it's not, he played good at left tackle, yes, give him all the credit in the world, and I thought he would build on that, but I feel like he's taken steps back since then. I don't know if it's the inconsistency of him playing. He's getting patchwork minutes and snaps because guys get hurt. He hasn't been out there full term, but he looked pretty good in college. He looked pretty good his rookie year, but the moment moments after that have been tragic and atrocious. And if he's getting blown up at playing right guard, I shudder to believe what he's going to look like protecting Herbert's blind side. I shudder to think. I'm not confident. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm going to be honest with you. So if he's rolling out here, I'm not sure what's worse, him or Austin Deculus. I don't know, honestly, truly. But it might just be a confidence thing with Jamari Saleh at this point. So if his confidence is shot, I would rather roll with Austin Deculus. I'll be honest. If that's the case and his confidence is shot, I'm concerned about him playing. Period. I would roll with Austin Deculus and maybe Foster Sorrell or somebody else who they picked up on waivers this week, who they brought in to compete. But honestly and truly, I'm concerned about that particular person in his entirety, wherever he may play, and just the line in general. Because on top of the fact that we have issues with Deculus and we have issues with Saleh, we got a big time issue with Bradley Bozeman. And I'm going to talk about this more a little bit later in regards to what Greg Roman had to say. But when I say that the center in any facet of the O-line in NFL has to be the best and most cerebral O-lineman that you have if you want to have a successful line. And again, I've been preaching this for a good while. You look at all the solid O-lines in this league, they all got good centers. Tyler Linderbaum for the Ravens, Creed Humphrey for the Chiefs, Jason Kelsey now, oh my God, what's the Eagles center now who took over for him after Jason Kelsey stopped? But he's a good one. He played right guard and they moved him over to center. He's good. So when you have a great center who can call out line play and quarterback the O-line, call out protection and things like that and get them in order and tell them who to block and how to adjust on the fly when they give you different looks, that's great. But hear me when I say that Bradley Bowman is completely and utterly porous at that, and the line is getting vehemently beat by stunts, twists, and games that they play on the defensive front that will just get clean rushes to the quarterback a lot. And I don't want to soapbox this as being a football, analytical thing here. I kind of want to keep it high level because then I have different fans that listen to this. But when I say Bradley Bozeman is not it, and I've been saying it, and it's just getting worse and worse by the moment. Him himself has issues with pass blocking in his own right, and on top of that, he has bad communication skills. Why Zion and Jamari are getting clean beat and they're not calling out switches and stunts and things of that nature, and the defense knows it and they just exploit it every single time it's convenient, is beyond me, and they haven't done nothing to adjust to it. It's a bad omen. It's a bad omen. I would almost argue that I would rather see Andre James at this point at center. I really would. Hell, give Zion a chance at center. Maybe he can do better with his line calls and get things in order. But with Bradley Bozeman at center, I feel like that is the most glaring issue that from a mental perspective, not just a physical, but a mental perspective that's going to derail this O-line. I really do feel that way. Because it's just no call, there's no reason for it outside of communication. You got to be able to pass guys off, and if the center don't know what he's doing, everybody else is going to be up the creek without a paddle. They really are. It really just going to be that bad. In all honesty, it's hard to watch. It really is hard to watch. I mean, it pains me to see certain reps that happen and that you just get clean shots at the runner and they only rush the 4. You get clean shots at the quarterback, clean shots at the ball carrier, and it's very little resistance. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox on that because I probably got to talk about it a few more times here in my slides. But yet again, it's an issue. It's an issue, but we got to fix it in order for us to have success in the season, because all the people want to do from here on out, because I think I said this before and I say it again, it's only going to get harder. People, the more film they get on you, the harder it's going to get, because they're going to exploit every weakness that you have. Bill Belichick was famous for saying, if I can make you play left-handed if you're right-handed, then I'm going to do that, because I'm going to take away everything you do well, and I'm going to make you try to shoot or play left-handed. If you can't do that, then likely you lose the game. So teams are going to try to make us play left-handed. So they're going to blitz us, they're going to stun us, they're going to get pressure and focus on the weak links in this interior O-line and get after Herbert. If you get after Herbert a lot, guess what? At some point, somehow, some way, and I don't wish it on him, something bad is going to happen. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. No quarterback. You can look at Joe Burrow, Andrew Luck, all the quarterbacks that got hit profusely and in large space end up getting hurt. It's just a byproduct of being in too many car collisions. It just is what it is. Herbert's a tough as nails guy. He's tough as nails, but he can't take with so much punishment. And they got to do something to fix it. And what that is, I'm not sure. And whether they know how to fix it or not is another question. But let's talk about what's going to be, coming up in this particular matchup. But it's gonna be a lot of things that need to change. And it starts with the trenches. It really does. But getting into the game itself, like I said, the Commanders are coming into town this week. SoFi Stadium home game for 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Jaden Daniels is going to play, so we're going to have that to deal with and his mobility. But we'll talk about that. But let's start with some house cleaning tips. Let's start with the things that you just need to clean up in all honesty. I do think that going forward, not just this game, but going forward, that these things need to be cleaned up and need to be addressed for the Chargers to have ultimate success and keep this division lead and go into the playoffs with some momentum. First and foremost, we're going to be missing Joe Alt for at least a couple of weeks. We could argue 3 to 4, depending on how bad his high ankle sprain is or how quickly he heals. He is a young man, so we like to believe that he's going to heal pretty quickly, but we just don't know. And he need that ankle to be whole and righteous for him to be able to block. So you don't want to rush him back. But in the same vein, you need him. So the moment he's healthy, let's get him back out there. But we don't know. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3, maybe 4 weeks at the most. We'll see. But for this game, for sure, he's not going to be there. So they got to find a combination of the O-line that's going to work the best. That's paramount. You got to find that. I don't know if that means who Jamar Saleh plays where, Austin Deculus plays where. I would argue that I would live with the idea of maybe putting Deculus at tackle, and hopefully Mekhi Becton plays, but he does not. Maybe put Jamar Saleh back at right guard, but I'm not comfortable with it. But that might be the best of the worst that we have at the moment. Because the guys they brought in, they don't really know the system. They don't know. They don't have any chemistry with the O-line, so throwing them out there is risky as well. We might need a couple of weeks to get them acclimated because they just got here. So for this game, I mean, that might be the best of the combination of the worst that you have. So I don't know, but I would tell you what it's going to be a remedy for this in my next talking point. But I think that for sure they got to find a combination that's going to work the best and protect Herbert the best he possibly can. Secondly, in the follow-up to that, you got to search free agency or possibly trade for an O-lineman. Now, I found this particular point interesting as well when he talked about trades, because I did find out recently that they did reach out to the Texans when they got Deculus about Cam Robinson, because we talked about Cam Robinson and being dealt. We talked about this on social media. We talked about him being dealt to the Browns. Turns out the Chargers wanted him and Deculus. They wanted both. But they didn't want to give them Cam Robinson at the moment because they felt like it was going to give the Chargers an advantage because they were a threat to the Texans' success. They knew they were a playoff team, vying for a playoff spot. They were on paper to be right there, going against the Texans right there and there at the end of the season and going into the playoffs. So what I'm not going to do is help out my rivals necessarily, but I can help out the Browns because the Browns aren't going anywhere. So they rather deal them to the Browns than deal them to the Chargers. So, a little bit of gamesmanship there, but that's why we didn't get Cam Robinson, in my opinion. But it would have been nice to get him on instead of Deculus or both. But it would have been nice to have Cam Robinson this week, to have him play left tackle. And, then when Joe Alt came back, we could have, patchworked that. But yeah, I would rather have Cam Robinson for my money, especially for a 7th-round pick. Can't beat that. But you ain't gonna cry over spilled milk. But they got to find some viable option, because I'm gonna be honest, Mekhi Becton's shaky. We don't, with Joe Alt coming back, he's going to play left tackle. Trey Pipkin is shaky at right. You got to find somebody I mean, hell, if you can snag yourself a good center that somebody's going to sell off in the trade deadline, do that and get rid of Bradley Bozeman. But I highly believe that they're not going to do that because somehow, some way, Greg Roman still believes in Bradley Bozeman, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But you need a center, you need a right guard maybe, and maybe a tackle. So one of those positions, if you free agency or trade for a guy in one of those three positions, that will improve the O-line. But you got to do something. You can't roll this version of the O-line out for the next 12 games and expect for it to work. It's just not. You want to get hurt. If you care about your franchise quarterback at all, that's what you should do. You should scour the waiver wire and the trade market for another upgraded O-line. You have to do it if you want to keep Herbert healthy. That's just my 2 cents on it. I also think you need to find another viable running back. If you don't trust Kamani Vidal at all, because you're not giving him any carries, and Amarion Hampton is great. He's a generational talent in my opinion, but he is a rookie. I think you need to find somebody else that can help spell him in senses that you don't wear him down. Because losing Najee Harris was a big blow, and he was going to be that guy. But the fact that you don't have Najee Harris anymore, you got to find another guy. And this is where the Raheem Sanders thing comes in and letting him go. Because if you had kept him, you'd have been money. And I don't, and to be honest with you, I don't see the value Hassan Haskins has. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. I would have kept Raheem Sanders over Hassan Haskins. I would have done that. And then you would have had another viable running back that could spell Amarion Hampton in those running downs that will give you production. But clearly you don't trust Kamani Vidal, which is the reason why you put him on the practice squad and you were forced to bring him back up, but you're still not giving him any touches. So not to wear out Amarion Hampton's tires before the season is over, you need to get up some help. So go out and find yourself a viable running back. That's number 3. And then number 4, to keep your wide receivers fresh, because Ladd is thin. Keenan is older. So I think you need to get the younger guys involved more. I think you need to give Keandre Lambert-Smith and Trey Harris more snaps in the offense to keep the Quentin Johnston, keep Keenan Allen and Ladd fresh. Because if you wear them out or one of those get hurt, that's going to hurt the passing offense as well. Because that's been working. The pass offense has been working, holistically. But what you don't want to do is have any of those 3 guys hurt. Because if you get them hurt, that's going to change the offense. So I think you need to get the young guys involved, and not by force because somebody's hurt. Get them involved now, get them comfortable, get them confident. And then if they are thrust out there for any stretch of time, you won't feel a drop off. But I think you need to get them involved. That's just my 2 cents. All right, so moving on to the idea of what the Commanders are going to do. What we know. All right, so Jane Daniels is going to play. We do know that. All right, so he's up. I'm not sure how mobile he's going to be. Some people are kind of downplaying the need, saying they're just being precautionary. He's going to be fine. He's going to be 100%. We don't know. Again, but I don't know if he's going to play with a brace, because he's never played with a brace before. He's going to do that. But honestly and truly, if he's not that mobile, that plays well for the Chargers, in all honesty, because we have a real big problem with mobile quarterbacks. They have been for a while, and it's still an issue. So if Jaden Daniels is allowed to run and roam and do whatever he needs to do with his legs, be a design run or scrambling, it's going to be a problem for the Chargers. I'm going to be real about it. It's going to be a problem. So if he stays in the pocket and tries to just play from the pocket, that bodes well for the Chargers. But if he moves and moves well, that's an issue. So you got to figure out a way to keep Deion Henley spied on him, or somebody that's ilk that can keep him from running away with this game. So you got to do something about that. But the silver lining for the Chargers is Terry McLaurin and Sam Cosmi are going to be out this game. So they're going to have their number 1 receiver or their number 1 guard. So that's a good thing. Now, so the ugliness of the Commanders for the Chargers, their D-line. We're talking about Johnny Newton, Deron Payne, Dorian Armstrong. We're talking Preston Smith, Javon Kinlaw. All these guys are playing really well. Eddie Goldman, resurgent. So all these guys are playing well against the patchwork O-line. So we got to corral them and keep them from wrecking the game. That is another glaring thing. Their D-line is playing really well. And you got to be able to keep them off Herbert. You really got to do it. And if you can't, it's gonna be a long day. So that D-line being hot and going against a D-line that's not confident in themselves about blocking and protecting Herbert, there's a big problem going into Sunday that you got to mitigate in order to win this game. You really do. Of course, Greg Roman addressed the idea of Herbert being hit a lot. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then Greg Roman's confidence in Bradley Bozeman. So get to that real quick. He tweeted, Daniel Popper tweeted on 2 different occasions about Bradley Bozeman and Justin Herbert being hit. And I'll paraphrase to say that he still thinks Bradley Bozeman is playing well, And he was going to continue to start. His veteran presence is valuable. He's a great leader. Then he also acknowledged the fact that Justin Herbert taking all these hits isn't sustainable. He can't keep getting hit like this. Can't take unnecessary hits. It's going to be detrimental, which I agree with, but do something about it. I mean, seriously, do something about it. Bradley Bozeman is contributing to this problem. So why are we having such good confidence in his abilities when he's the crux of why Justin Herbert get hit a lot? So I think those tweets were very irritating to us fans. It really was. So I said my piece on it. I'm not gonna get too in the weeds about it, but it's really contradictory in these two tweets. You say that Herbert being hit isn't a problem, but you confident in Bradley Bozeman. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna keep my critiques to myself. I said enough about Greg Roman in the preseason, so I'm gonna keep my critiques to myself. But you see it right there in black and white. So getting to the keys to victory real quick. I said there was a recipe to keep this O-line from having to keep Herbert from being killed in this game. And I think that recipe is to run the ball. We have not run the ball at enough for it to be a run-heavy offense. Greg Roman is known for his run-heavy style, and we've been more pass-centric in the first 4 weeks. So I would argue because, again, Mario Hampton had a great game. He's had 2 great games, but he's gotten 100 carries on less than 20 carries. He's got 100 yards on less than 20 carries in 2 games. So imagine what he can do with 20 carries. So you got to run the ball or run a combination of running backs in this game for at least 20 times. You got to run the ball at least 20 times, 20 plus, in my opinion, 20 to 25. I think that's the magic number. To one, wear down and weaken that D line. Number one. Number two, keep Herbert from having to pass the ball at a high clip, which is going to get him hit ultimately, because this D line at some point, somehow, some way is going to get after him if we have to be forced to let Herbert drop back and cross our fingers on the protection of him having this patchwork O-line. So yeah, I would argue that you have to corral these D linemen and run the ball. I think you run the ball at them, weaken them, tire them out. They will, have less, ferocity coming after Herbert later in the game, so it would allow him to deliver the ball down the field to these receivers. So run the ball, get a Mario Hampton going downhill early and often, and lean on this defense. And again, you got to give help where help as much as possible against these D tackles. Keep the running back in, chip, block. Mario Hampton's great at pass pro. Chip him with his tight ends. Tyler Conklin's not doing much anything else. If he can do something, block for Herbert. Plus, please, chip these D linemen, chip these D ends, keep Herbert upright, give him at least 3 to 4 seconds to throw the ball, and we're in good shape. But if you give these free runs at Herbert like you did last week, it's going to be a recipe for disaster. I'm sorry to say. Again, and then going back to Jane Daniels, keeping him from extending the plays. You got to be able to keep him in the pocket and keep him from extending the plays. And if he's the mobile quarterback that he normally is, it's going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue. So we got to keep Jaden Daniels corralled and keep him spied and keep him from extending the plays and getting out and, extending drives. That's the biggest problem that you got to fix. And then for the Chargers, lastly, just get the tight ends involved. The Commanders are very, I guess you can say, weak at defending tight ends. They've given up a lot of yards to the tight ends that they face, Kyle Pitts and a few others. So I think around the Gaskins and I'm not going to say Tyler Conklin because he's really in the doghouse for me right now. But for sure, around the Gaskins should be able to, and even Amari Hampton out the backfield should be able to eat in this game. They've given up a lot of yards to tight ends. They're one of the worst in defending tight ends in this league so far. So yes, get after them from the middle of the field and get around the Gaskins going. I think this should be a big game for him for sure. So there it is, man. I think those are going to be the keys to victory and get things done. If they can accomplish these things, Amari Hampton should have maybe 100, 150 yards rushing. They can keep these D linemen from sacking Herbert at a high clip, under 2 sacks. Keep Jaden Daniels in the pocket and get the tight ends involved. And the running Gaston has at least 6 targets. I think it's going to be a good game. So yeah, so look to do that and just run steady offense and keep them from the just really wrecking the game on defense, from the D-line perspective. Then I like our chances, but it's all things that have to happen for the Chargers to win the game. So let me know how you feel about it, man. Drop some comments in the chat. Drop some comments on this video. Please let me know if anything else that worries you about this game. What do you think of the keys to victory that I might have missed? Please let me know what you feel about this game. Hit that subscribe button as always, man. Let the YouTube algorithm know we're doing big things out there. And hopefully we get a victory come Sunday, and we can bounce back and get to 4-1. But yeah, as always, man, we'll be back with a game recap Sunday or Monday, depending on what the schedule looks like. And look out for that, and look out for all our content throughout the week. And hit us up on socials, Electric Shock Pod, all throughout their platforms. And hopefully the Chargers will be at the top of the division after 5 weeks. So hoping for the best, and hopefully everybody stays healthy and we can get another victory ASO5. And man, after the game, man, we'll talk to y'all then. But you always got to remember to boat up,